brothers and sisters. Welcome to this episode of The Shepherd's Voice. Today, we are in the 29th Sunday in the ordinary time. In a small hill town, there was a little parish where lived a humble catechist named Mary. For many years, Mary served the church with quiet dedication, preparing children for their first Holy Communion, visiting the sick, and leading the rosary every evening. But behind her gentle smile lay a heavy burden. Her only son Daniel had lost his way. He was once a bright altar boy who had fallen into addiction, drifted away from the family, and abandoned his faith. Every night, Mary knelt before the crucifix and prayed, "Lord, bring my son back to you. You are stronger than my pain. I will not stop asking." Days turned into months and months into years. Yet there was no sign of change. Some people told her to accept reality. Others said it is useless to keep praying. But Mary remembered the story of Moses on the hill, whose raised hands brought victory to Israel. So like Moses, she lifted her hands in prayer every day, believing that God was fighting the battle she could not see. At times she grew tired, her spirit weary from tears. But her parish friends, an elderly couple named Joseph and Teresa, began joining her every evening for prayer. "Mary," they said, "you prayed for us when our daughter was sick. Now it's our turn to hold your hands up." Together, they prayed the rosary faithfully. Lifting Daniel's name to God like Moses, who lifted up the staff on the hill, they prayed together. Years later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Daniel walked into the church after Mass. His face was tired, but his eyes were clear. "Mama," he said with trembling voice, "I don't know why, but something in me told me to go home." Tears filled Mary's eyes. Not tears of surprise, but of fulfillment. She knew that God, who heard the widow's persistent plea and gave victory to Moses, had heard her too. Mary's story is our story. We all have battles that seem endless, prayers that appear unanswered, and hopes that fade with time. Yet, God's message, especially through this Sunday readings, is simple and powerful. Never give up on prayer. Like Moses, lift your hands even when you feel weak. Like the widow, keep knocking on the door of God's heart. God's delay are not denials, but they are moments that deepen our trust. He is never deaf to our cries. And when we support one another in faith, miracles unfold quietly, often when we least expect them. So, when life's battle feels too heavy, remember, keep praying, keep believing, and keep trusting. For the Lord who fought for Israel and listened to the widow is still fighting for you and me. And He never fails those who persevere. All the readings of today are inviting us to meditate on this aspect. The first important thing that we see in the first reading is prayer and action in partnership. The reading presents a vivid image of Israel's struggle with Amalek. Joshua fights in the valley while Moses stands on the hill with the staff of God raised in prayer. This scene reveals that prayer and actions are inseparable in the life of faith. Our efforts in the world, whether in the ministry, whether in the parish, whether in the family or personal struggle, must always be supported by constant prayer, which invites God's power into human activity. Victory is not achieved by strength alone, but by a heart that trusts in God's help. The second thing we see from the reading is the symbol of raised hands. Moses' raised hands symbolize continuous intercession and dependence on God. As long as his hands remained lifted, Israel prevailed. When they fell, the enemy gained ground. This gesture reminds us that our prayer must be steadfast, especially when we face life's battles. The raised hands also point forward to Christ, who stretched out his hands on the cross, obtaining victory over sin and death through his perfect intercession. The third thing we should see is the importance of support in the journey of faith. When Moses grew weary, Aaron and Hur stood beside him, supporting his hands until sunset. The moving detail teaches the value of community in sustaining faith. None of us can persevere alone. We need others to strengthen us in prayer and encouragement. In the church, we share one another's burdens, helping each other remain faithful when fatigue or discouragement sets in. The fourth important thing, God as the source of true victory. The battle scene makes it clear that human strength and strategy are not enough. It is God who grants success. Joshua's military effort depended on Moses' prayer, and Moses' prayer drew its power from God's presence. In every struggle, be it spiritual, moral, or personal, we are reminded that victory belongs to Lord and our confidence rests in Him. The fifth important thing, perseverance and trust in God's help. This passage calls us to persistent prayer and trust even when challenges seems prolonged. Like Moses, we may grow weary, but perseverance opens the way for God's saving power to act. Our ongoing prayer keeps our hearts aligned with God's will, and His grace ensures that in the end, light triumphs over darkness. And in the Gospel, we hear the parable of the persistent widow, which has got few points to tell us. The first point is call to unceasing prayer. Jesus introduces this parable to teach that we ought always to pray and not lose heart. Prayer is not simply a request for favor. It is a loving relationship with God built on perseverance. Even when answer seems delayed, continued prayer expresses faith that God is listening and acting in His time. The second thing we see is the widow, a model of courage and faith. In biblical times, widows represented society's most vulnerable. Yet, this widow refuses to give up, returning again and again to the judge until she is heard. Her persistence reveals inner strength born of faith and hope. She reminds us that God listens especially to the cries of those who are humble, oppressed, and steadfast in trust. The third thing we have to see is the contrast between the unjust judge and the just God. The unjust judge grants the widow's plea only to get rid himself of her persistence. Jesus uses this contrast to highlight that the goodness of God. If even a corrupt judge responds to persistence, how much more will our loving Father respond with compassion and justice to His faithful children who cry out to Him. The fourth important thing, God's justice and timely response. Jesus assures His listeners that God will see justice done speedily. Though His response may not always come according to our expectations, God's justice never fails. His timings is perfect, designed to deepen our faith and prepare our hearts to receive His mercy fully. Persistent prayer transforms us even before it changes our circumstances. Fifth, faith that endures until the end. The parable concludes, if you observe, with a probing question. When the Son of Man comes, will He find faith on earth? Jesus challenges us to remain faithful in prayer until His return. Our perseverance in prayer is both the sign and the sustenance of genuine faith. It keeps our hope alive, even in a world that often seems indifferent to God. So, connecting these two readings, both highlight the power of persevering prayer. Moses raised hands on the hill, and the widow's relentless pleas before the judge illustrates the same truth. God's people must never lose heart in prayer. Whether we face spiritual battles, injustice, or personal trials, victory and justice come through steadfast trust in God. Prayer is not a momentary act, but a continuous posture of faith that opens our lives to God's saving grace. Keeping all these things, what is God intending to tell us? The first thing that He would like to tell us is persevere in prayer, even when it feels difficult. Moses and the widow show that prayer is not merely a quick request to God, but a lifelong attitude of faith and trust. Moses raised hands during the battle, and the widow's repeated appeals before the judge remind us that perseverance is the key to unlock God's grace. In moments of discouragement, when our prayers seem unanswered or life's battle grow heavy, we are called to remain steadfast. God may not respond immediately, but His silence never means absence. He works quietly, shaping our hearts and strengthening our faith through perseverance. Second, combine prayer with action and effort. The battle against Amalek teaches us that the prayer and action must go hand in hand. Joshua fought with all his strength, but Moses' intercession made the victory possible. Likewise, in our daily lives, we must act responsibly, doing our best at work, in family, in the parish, while remain deeply rooted in prayer. Prayer without effort can become passive, and effort without prayer can become prideful. God calls us to cooperate with His grace, to work as though everything depends on us, and pray as though everything depends on Him. The third important thing, strengthen and support one another in faith. Moses could not keep his hands raised alone. He needed Aaron and Hur to support him. This powerful image reminds us that faith is not lived in isolation. We all experience moments of weakness, fatigue, and doubt. And during such times, we need the help of others to lift us up in prayer and encouragement. In our families, in our parishes, we must be like Aaron and Hur, standing beside those who are weary, praying for them and offering strength. The church is a community of believers united by faith, love, and mutual support. The fourth important thing is trust in God's justice and timing. In the parable of the persistent widow, Jesus assures us that God listens to those who cry out to Him day and night. Yet His justice may not unfold according to our timeline or according to our expectations. We often want immediate results, but God's timing is always perfect, rooted in His wisdom and love. When answers delay, it is not because God is indifferent, but because He sees a greater good that we may not yet understand. Faith means waiting with hope, trusting that God of justice and mercy will act at the right moment. Finally, let prayer transform us and deepen our faith. At the end of the Gospel, Jesus asks a striking question. When the Son of Man comes, will He find faith on earth? True faith is not only about changing our circumstances, it is about allowing God to change us. Persistent prayer shapes our hearts, purifies our desires, and strengthens our faith. When we persevere in prayer, even amid silence or struggle, we learn to see life through God's eyes. Such prayer makes us people of faith, which radiate hope, patience, and compassion, bearing witness that Jesus truly is the light of the world. Mission Sunday. Mission Sunday observed on the third Sunday of October, which invites every parish community to renew its missionary spirit and commitment to evangelization. It is a day to pray for missionaries across the world and to support their work through spiritual and material contributions. Parishes are encouraged to organize special masses, mission-themed homilies, children's activities, and collection for the Pontifical Mission Societies. The celebration reminds the faithful that every baptized person shares in Christ's mission to bring the gospel to all peoples. And my dear people of God, every parish have got activities for this Mission Sunday. Various programs are organized, various activities are organized. I hereby invite all of you to participate in all these activities and contribute. I still remember Bangalore in its collection stands topmost among all the churches. So therefore, I kindly request you to contribute, participate in the Mission Sunday programs, activities, pray for the missionaries, and especially make the Mission Sunday a successful one. Saint of the Week, October 22nd, Saint John Paul II. Saint John Paul II, whose feast is celebrated on October 22nd, was a tireless witness to Christ in the modern world. As Pope from 1978 to 2005, he inspired millions through his deep spirituality, defense of human dignity, and unwavering faith. His teachings on the family, youth, mercy, and the sanctity of life continue to guide the Church. His motto, Totus Tuos, totally yours, expressed his complete trust in Mary and total dedication to Christ. St. John Paul II's life encourages us to live our faith with courage, joy, and hope. Happy Feast of Lights, Diwali. We extend our warm greetings and best wishes to all who are celebrating the festival of lights, that is Diwali. This joyful feast, marked by the lighting of lamps and sharing of happiness, symbolizes the triumph of light over darkness and good over evil. It's a time for the families and communities to come together in gratitude, renewal, and hope. As Christians, we see in this celebration a beautiful reminder of Jesus Christ, the true light of the world. Just as the lamps of Diwali brighten homes and hearts, Christ's light dispels the darkness of sin and brings peace, joy, and salvation to all humanity. May this festival inspire all of us to walk in His light, radiating love, harmony, and goodness to everyone around us. Jewels of the Archdiocese. Today, we shall see the history of Divine Mercy Retreat Center. The Divine Mercy Retreat Center, nestled quietly behind the historic Lourdes Church in Alasuru, stands today as a growing spiritual sanctuary within the Archdiocese of Bangalore. Officially inaugurated on December 1st, 2018, this center was initially envisioned and laid out under the guidance of the Archbishop Vernon Morris, the former Archbishop of Bangalore, and was jointly inaugurated by both Archbishop Morris and his successor, Archbishop Peter Machado. Though it was set in motion with great hope, the unexpected arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic shortly after its inauguration led to its abrupt halt in its activities for nearly 2 years. However, like the spirit of resurrection that underlines our faith, the center reopened its door post-pandemic and has steadily been welcoming individuals and groups in search of spiritual healing, peace, and divine mercy. This retreat center is not just another structure within the Archdiocese. It embodies the very message of mercy and reconciliation that Jesus preached. The vision of the Divine Mercy Retreat Center is rooted in fostering experiences of God's compassion, forgiveness and healing. Whether one comes to pray, seek inner transformation, or simply find peace in silence, the center offers sacred space for renewal. What makes this place distinct is its dedication to Divine Mercy devotion, drawing inspiration from the words of Jesus to Faustina, encouraging trust in His infinite mercy. Thus, every aspect of this center, from its name to its activities, aims to become a living testimony to that message of hope. Despite being in this ongoing process of development, the center is already vibrant with spiritual activity. Weekly intercessory prayers and conducted from Monday to Friday between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in 5 languages make it accessible to people from diverse linguistic backgrounds. Additionally, weekend retreats are organized catering to various language groups. Friday in Tamil, Saturdays in English, Sundays in Kannada, with Konkani and Malayalam on the 4th and the 5th Sundays respectively. An adoration chapel within the premises also offers a space for silent prayer and contemplation, where individuals can spend time in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament and unburden themselves before the Lord. Archbishop Peter Machado has aptly described the center as a jewel of the Archdiocese, one that is still growing, evolving and transforming into a radiant spiritual gem. He emphasized that while the infrastructure is still developing, what truly matters is not setting but the disposition of the heart. The Divine Mercy Center is not merely a place but a moment, a call to encounter the mercy of God deeply and personally. It serves as a space where people can be reconciled with themselves, with others, and with God. As the Archdiocese celebrates the Feast of the Divine Mercy this year, for the first time within the precincts of the center, the faithful are warmly invited to partake in its mission and vision. Archbishop Machado extends his heartfelt invitation to all to visit, pray, and support the growth of this sanctuary. With community participation and divine guidance, the Divine Mercy Center is poised to become a beacon of forgiveness and compassion, not only for the Archdiocese of Bangalore, but for the entire church in Karnataka and beyond. Archbishop Peter Machado affectionately calls the Divine Mercy Center a growing jewel of the Archdiocese. While infrastructure development is ongoing, what truly defines the place is the disposition of the heart, where mercy is received, peace is restored, and souls are reconciled. With visionary leadership, the collaboration of the commissions, and the growing participation of the faithful, this retreat center is destined to become a spiritual lighthouse for Karnataka and beyond. For the Maria Louis, the newly appointed director of the center, and for the Kanika Das, secretary of the commission for the proclamation and evangelization, now take charge of this mission with renewed zeal. We wish them all the best as they continue to strive to proclaim the good news and spread the message of divine mercy. God bless you all.